Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing our final prediction for the 2022 House races. We're going to be taking a look at all of these districts, all 50 states, and ranking them just 2 days out from the midterm elections. Of course, tomorrow stay tuned because that's when we'll be releasing our Senate and governor predictions. And of course, on Tuesday, election day at 7 p.m., we'll be having our election night live stream. So link to that down below. Be sure to set your reminders. As always, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing down below, liking this video if you enjoy. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. So we're going to go in alphabetical order, starting with the state of Alabama. No changes in the state of Alabama. Republicans will hold on to their 6 congressional seats here. Democrats have their lone district there. No changes, no competitive races in Alabama. Moving on out to Alaska, I think Mary Peltola will hold on in the state of Alaska. I think Mark Begich and Sarah Palin both in the race together with the ranked choice system, really hurting each other in the primary. I don't think it's going to help. Mary Peltola is a very popular incumbent now. Sarah Palin is very unpopular, and she's still the second runner-up in the ranked choice voting. So given that Begich is probably going to be knocked off after the first round, I think Peltola wins this probably by 5 or 6 points. I don't think it's going to be that close. And she's a very unique Democrat. I think she's a good fit for the state of Alaska, and that's one of the reasons why I think she's going to hold on despite the wavier. Moving on down to Arizona, I think Republicans are going to get 2 pickups in this state. Of course, the first pickup is going to be in the 2nd congressional district. This is O'Halloran's district. He's the incumbent Democrat. It's a Trump +8 district. I think especially in this midterm environment, he's got no chance. He does have a decent amount of crossover support, but again, his old district actually went to Joe Biden. So his new district, being a likely Trump district in a red-leaning year, is a political death sentence. So as a result, he loses fairly easily up there. And of course, in the 6th congressional district, Juan Ciscomani, the Republican, will win that open seat. Of course, the Democrat Ann Kirkpatrick decided to not run for re-election there. In Arkansas, no competitive seats here. Republicans will keep their 4 congressional districts here. Of course, Democrats have no seats in this state. In California, the Democrats will lose 3 congressional seats here. The Republicans will gain 2. They're losing 1 because of the 2020 census. California lost a congressional district. Republicans will pick up that open seat in the 13th. It's a fairly Biden-leaning district. I think Biden won it by 10 or 11, but the Republican there is running a very strong campaign, doing very well in the fundraising. I think he'll pull it off this year. Whether he pulls it off in the future is obviously up for anyone to decide. We don't know yet. And of course, down in the Los Angeles area, I think Levin loses in the 49th district. Pretty narrowly, it's going to be close, but fundraising numbers have not looked good for him down there. The Republican is very well funded. Obviously, other Republican-leaning districts there, Youngkin, Michelle Steele, they're going to hang on. They won in 2020, flipped blue districts. Back to red, I think that'll continue. So ultimately, the Republicans will pick up 2 seats here. Democrats will have a net loss of 3. Over in Colorado, Republicans will win that new open seat in the Denver suburbs. It's a Biden +3 seat. I think they're going to win here fairly easily. I think you're going to see a snapback with Republican suburban voters, some of which may have voted third party or for Biden in 2020. I think some of them are going to come back home, especially given the wavier and the turnout differential. So Republicans will have no problem picking up this open seat. Out in Connecticut, Democrats have 5 congressional seats here. Republicans currently have 0. I don't expect that to change. Some argued that Representative Hayes was somewhat vulnerable, and maybe a couple months ago, the polling sort of indicated that, but she's a very strong incumbent. Things have sort of changed in the district. Stefanowski at the top of the ticket's not really running a really strong race like he did in 2018. As a result, I think the Republicans are going to come up short here, and Democrats are going to keep all 5 of Connecticut's congressional districts. Moving down to Delaware, Lisa Blunt Rochester, the incumbent Democrat, will easily win re-election here. It's an at-large district, no competitive seats in Delaware. Down in Florida, Republicans will pick up 4 congressional seats here. Al Lawson, of course, will be the pickup there in the Panhandle. He was the Democrat who was sort of in a VRA district that stretched all the way from Jacksonville to Tallahassee. Now that that district is no longer there due to the new maps, he's now in a Trump +7 or 8 district. I think he's going to lose by a pretty comfortable margin. Of course, Republicans also pick up Stephanie Murphy's seat in the Orlando area, and then those 2 seats in the Tampa Bay area. Of course, down in the southern part of the state, Miami-Dade, the Republican incumbents there will have no problem winning re-election. Next door in the state of Georgia, Republicans will pick up that 6th congressional district in the Atlanta suburbs that they lost back in 2018. Of course, in 2020, they lost the 7th as well. Of course, now the 7th is a safe blue district with Lucy McBath, and the 6th congressional district is by far a safe Republican district. So at the end of this, so in January of next year, the delegation will be 9-5 Republican in Georgia. In Hawaii, no competitive races here. Democrats keep their 2 congressional districts. Republicans will still stay at 0 at the end of this cycle. In Idaho, similar story, but reverse. 2 safe Republican seats, no competitive races here. In Illinois, Republicans will actually lose a congressional seat despite picking up one and losing one downstate. That's mainly due to the fact that Republicans sort of were the losers in the redistricting cycle. Illinois lost a congressional district, and the way their maps are drawn, that district was a Republican district. So downstate, Democrats will actually flip the 13th district, while Republicans flip Bustos' former district, the 17th. Over in Indiana, the 1st congressional district is really the only competitive district in this state. It's still a Biden +8 district, but I actually think the Republican candidate, Jennifer Ruth Green, will actually win here. I think the Democrat made a number of missteps. Of course, the national environment is going to be his worst nightmare, coupled with the fact that he did release some very personal information about Jennifer Ruth Green, of course, one of them relating to a sexual assault she suffered in the military, and ultimately that looks very poorly on the Democratic candidate. I think she's going to win at the end of the day. That'll be a pickup for the GOP in Indiana. Over in Iowa, all 4 of these districts are Trump-leaning districts. Cindy Axne, who is the only Democrat left in the Iowa delegation, she's going to go down probably by a lean margin or so. Iowa's probably going to be safe Republican in both the governor and Senate race. Basically, because she's an incumbent, she probably won't lose by nearly as much as the district will vote for Grassley and Reynolds. But nonetheless, a Republican pickup there, which will make the Iowa delegation 4-0 Republican. In Kansas, you have Sharice Davids, who's in the Kansas City suburban district. I believe it's now only Biden +3. I think she goes down this cycle. Even if Laura Kelly hangs on in the governor's race, I think that's very much a possibility now, especially given the polling that we've seen. But Sharice Davis, this suburban district, I think will snap back to the GOP. It did swing pretty wildly to the left in 2020, but I think it's going to snap back. I think you'll see Republicans all across the country doing better in a lot of these suburban districts. So as a result, the delegation after this election will be 4-0 Republican. Kentucky, no competitive districts here. Republicans will maintain their 5-1 lead over the Democrats in this delegation, as with in the state of Louisiana, which is also 5-1 Republican. Up in the state of Maine, this was a tricky one to categorize just because of how red Maine's 2nd congressional district is. I think Jared Golden is a really good fit for the district overall. He's bucked the party a number of times, and I think that'll play very well, especially given the fact that this is a Trump district. You have Paul LePage at the top of the ticket running for governor. You very well could see a decent number of LePage Golden voters, and that's what I predict will happen. So as a result, I think Jared Golden will win re-election narrowly in the 2nd congressional district. Bruce Poliquin, his opponent, isn't anything really remarkable. He lost in 2018 due to ranked choice voting very narrowly. And of course, in 2020, you had another Republican challenger there lose to Golden by around 6 or 7 points. So Golden massively outperformed Trump in that district. And I think he's likely to do the same this time around in 2022. Down in Maryland, we have 1 Republican pickup. That'll be in Maryland's 6th congressional district. Previously, in the former redistricting cycle, it was a safe blue seat, mainly because part of the district stretched all the way down into deep blue Montgomery County. Now a lot less of Montgomery County is in this district. Most of it's concentrated west of Frederick, so Frederick County and west of there. Something interesting about Frederick County, this is an ex-urban county. It swung pretty wildly to the left in 2020, but many expect this area to swing back. I think Dan Cox will probably carry the county, and as a result, I think David Trone will lose re-election. I think Neil Parrott will carry this district. It'll be close, but I think at the end of the day, he will unseat Trone based on the national environment and based on Republican enthusiasm in this part of the state. This is a very red part of the state. The western part of the district especially is +30 Trump, especially outside of Frederick County, so I wouldn't be shocked with a Republican pickup here. Massachusetts is a state that's too blue for any Republican to get elected to any of these seats. It's also very gerrymandered as well. You really have to gerrymander the state just to get a Republican-leaning district here anyway, so no competitive seats in the state of Massachusetts. Out in Michigan, John Gibbs, I think, will narrowly win in the Meyer district in the western part of the state. Many have deemed him as sort of unelectable, but I think he's gotten better over time, especially in the fall. I think Republicans are building momentum in Michigan. Dixon is polling a lot more competitively now against Whitmer. Some argue she might pull an upset, and I think that's going to have down ballot ramifications. Even if Dixon does lose by a couple of points, I think Gibbs will hold on. The district was only Biden +8. It did swing a fair amount from 2016 to 2020, but I do think it's going to end up swinging back in favor of Republicans. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to see an 8-5 Republican delegation. Of course, the Democratic incumbent in a risky district that I think will hold on is Kidley up in that Flint district there that's blue. He's a massive, massive overperformer. He's somebody who's built a brand in that district and especially in that part of the state. I don't see him losing re-election, even though this is only a Biden +2 district. He's a very, very strong incumbent. I think he actually holds on, even despite the national environment. Of course, Slotkin in Michigan's 8th. I think she's going down. I think she'll go down by a couple of points. And then, of course, you have John James running in that open seat in the Detroit area. It's a Trump district. He's going to win that pretty easily. It's probably going to be a likely margin, especially given the national environment and the fact that he's such a strong candidate there. Over in the state of Minnesota, Republicans will pick up Angie Craig's district in the Minneapolis area. Not really too surprising, especially since this isn't really that much of a blue district. Angie Craig only won a re-election back in 2020 by just a few points. I think third parties in this district, like the Marijuana Now party and these other parties that tend to take mostly away from Democrats, I think that's going to hurt Angie Craig significantly. And of course, coupled with the national environment, I think Angie Craig goes down in Minnesota. Mississippi, the delegation remains 3-1 Republican. No shock there. None of these districts are remotely competitive. Missouri, no competitive seats here. Again, Republicans have a 6-2 advantage. That's going to stay. The only area where Democrats are winning is the Kansas City suburbs and, of course, the St. Louis area. Up in Montana, Republicans are actually picking up a seat. This is a new district that Montana got due to population growth from the last census. So they're going to win that fairly easily. I believe it's a Trump +7 district, especially in this environment. I wouldn't be surprised if the Republican candidate wins this by a safe margin. So really no competitive districts in Montana, but they will get a pickup there as a result of the new district. Over in the state of Nebraska, Don Bacon, I think, is going to hold on, which that's really the only competitive district in the state. It's a Biden-leaning district, but Don Bacon is a pretty strong incumbent. He won both in 2018 and 2020, which sort of attests to the fact that he is this strong candidate, and I think he's likely to hold on, especially given the national environment this time around, which would keep Republicans their 4-0 majority in the delegation in Nebraska. Over in Nevada, I see Republicans picking up 2 seats here, both in the Las Vegas area. I think Horsford, who is the only Democrat winning in this scenario, I think he holds on mainly due to the fact that the Republican Party has basically abandoned their nominee in that district, and I think Horsford holds on as a result. Dina Titus, who is actually in the bluest district, ironically enough, seems to be in the most trouble of all the Democratic incumbents. I think she goes down. I think that other Las Vegas district goes red as well, and as a result, you'll see Republicans picking up 2 seats in the state of Nevada. I also think they're going to do well in the top of the ticket races, and that'll contribute to the down ballot coattails here in the Las Vegas area. Up in the Granite State, New Hampshire, I think Republicans will pick up the 1st congressional district there. I think Chris Pappas will lose re-election. He underperformed Biden in 2020. Based on some of the polls and energy that we've seen in New Hampshire, Don Bolduc running a much more competitive Senate race now. He could even pull an upset. I think that drags Chris Pappas down with him, even though the Republican nominee is a bit questionable. Her messaging has changed a bit. So I think Levin will end up winning this district based on the national environment. Over in the state of New Jersey, Democrats did a very good job of gerrymandering this state. So there's really not any competitive districts besides, of course, Malinowski's district, the Democrats. This is a Biden-leaning district. I think Keene wins this. This is going to be a pickup for the GOP. All of the polls have indicated that. The energy in the state of New Jersey. This is going to be a very easy pickup. As for the other blue districts, though, Republicans really aren't that competitive there because the Democrats did do such a good job of drawing this state in such a way that even in a red wave year, they would have by far a majority of the seats in the New Jersey delegation. So Republicans picking up 1 in New Jersey, that brings the Democrats down to a 9-3 majority in the state. Out in the Southwest in New Mexico, I think Yvette Herrell hangs on in the 2nd congressional district. The other 2 blue districts will stay blue. Of course, we're going to talk about the governor's race there tomorrow, but very interesting stuff happening there. I think Yvette Herrell holds on. It's only a Biden +5 district. She's an incumbent. I think she's going to hold on there. Democrats will maintain their 2-1 advantage in the New Mexico delegation. Up in the Empire State, Democrats will lose 3 seats here. Republicans will gain 2. That's mainly due to redistricting. Republicans lost a seat in the redistricting process. The new map that we have now is a lot fairer than the Democrat gerrymander that was proposed earlier on this year that was struck down by the appellate court. I think Zeldin at the top of the ticket is really going to help a lot of Republicans down ballot. On Long Island, I think the 3rd congressional district will flip. I think the 4th congressional district, it's a Biden plus 14. Even if Zeldin somehow narrowly won that district in his run for governor, down ballot, I think it's going to be bluer. It's an open seat, but again, it's a very blue district. Democrats will hold on to that district. And of course, the 2 flips in the upstate region in the Hudson Valley are, of course, the 19th. Mark Molinaro will flip that district. And I actually do think Pat Ryan will narrowly lose in the 18th based on the national environment. It's only a Biden plus 8. I think Zeldin at the top of the ticket is really going to hurt some of the incumbent Democrats. And potentially the district south of the 18th, the 17th, could even flip as well. Although I think Sean Patrick Maloney will narrowly hold on due to the fact that he's such a big fundraiser. He's the DCCC chair, and he's in a Biden plus 10 district. So I do think he'll hold on this time around. He is an overperformer, but if he were to lose any re-election bid, it would probably be this year. Down in North Carolina, the Democrats will actually gain a seat, despite Republicans flipping that open seat. This is due to redistricting. Again, in the old map, Democrats had 5 districts, Republicans had 8. Now you have the Republicans at 8 with the Democrats gaining another district in the Charlotte area. This is almost a Democratic gerrymander in a way. And I think if the Republicans take control of the North Carolina Supreme Court, which they are very likely to this cycle, you're probably going to see a fairer map in North Carolina, at least geographically, because kind of cracking Charlotte is really at the disadvantage of the Republicans. Because if you were to compact that district, it would be a very safe blue district, but Democrats would only get 1 instead of 2 out of it. North Dakota is an at-large district. No competitive races here. Republicans will hold on to that seat. In the state of Ohio, Republicans are going to flip 2 of the congressional districts. That's a net pickup of 1 due to redistricting. Ohio lost a congressional district. And of course, Democrats are going to lose 2. Of course, Marcy Kaptur in that northwestern district is going to lose to Jared Majewski. This is a Trump district. Even with all of the controversy surrounding Majewski and his military history, I don't think it's going to matter at the end of the day when the national environment is R+4 and the state of Ohio is voting double digits for Republicans at the top of the ticket. He's going to win there. He's going to flip that district. And of course, Ohio's 13th, Tim Ryan's former district, is going to flip fairly easily. In the state of Oklahoma, Republicans will maintain a 5-0 majority in the House delegation. Of course, this state was also kind of gerrymandered to rule out competition. Of course, the Oklahoma City area in this instance is that part that is gerrymandered, so much so that every one of these districts is a safe Trump district. Over in the state of Oregon, the Republicans will pick up 1 seat. That'll be Kurt Schrader's former seat against the progressive Democratic candidate running there. It's only a Biden plus 8 district. I think it'll flip given that it's open this year. Also, Christine Drazen at the top of the ticket is doing very well. I think that's going to have down ballot ramifications. Although, despite losing 1 district, the Oregon Democrats will have a 4 majority. They're going to keep their 4 congressional seats because the new district is the one that they're losing in this instance. Over in the Keystone State, Republicans are going to pick up a net 2 seats, although they're flipping 3 because Pennsylvania lost a congressional district due to the redistricting process. In the Northeast, you have Pennsylvania's 8th. I think Cartwright will go down there, especially because of the top of the ticket. Oz and potentially Mastriano will win that district overall. I think Cartwright's going to go down based on the wave year in the national environment. Susan Wild in the 7th congressional district also goes down. This is a Biden plus 0.9 district, especially in this midterm environment. I don't see her hanging on. She goes down in the 7th. And finally, we go on to Western Pennsylvania, the 17th congressional district, where I actually think Republicans will have a flip here. This is a lean Biden district, but it's an open seat. Republicans have been doing very well there on the ground in terms of fundraising. I think they're going to flip this seat. So ultimately, Republicans will be flipping 3 seats. That's a net gain of 2 for the GOP out of Pennsylvania. In the state of Rhode Island, I've been dragging my heels for a while on Alan Fung. I really wanted to wait and see if he really was a viable candidate. He certainly is. I wanted to really see how the polling was, and Magaziner's internals have him tied or even slightly losing to Fung, and I think as a result, he's probably going to pull out with a victory at the end of the day, leaving the Rhode Island delegation split in terms of the House seats, with Alan Fung occupying the 2nd and the Democrat occupying the 1st congressional district. So that's going to be very interesting. It's the first time the Republican Party has had a House district in Rhode Island since the 1990s, but I think Alan Fung is the candidate that will make that happen. Down in South Carolina, no competitive House races here. The Charleston district was sort of gerrymandered to become a safe Republican district. Joe Cunningham, the former Democratic incumbent there, who lost back in 2020, he's running for governor now. Nancy Mace, the Republican there, is going to win pretty resoundingly. Again, it's a safe Trump district. It's going to be a pretty solid Republican victory there. And as a result, no change in the South Carolina delegation. Up in South Dakota, we've only got one at-large district. And South Dakota is not a competitive state. So again, no change in this state. Over in Tennessee, the Republican gerrymander ruled out the Nashville Democratic-held district, which I think has been that way since the Civil War. It's now been gerrymandered out. Republicans will pick up former Representative Cooper's district. He's not running for re-election. As a result, that's going to be a pretty resounding defeat for whoever the Democratic nominee is. Again, Nashville's been cracked into 3 congressional districts instead of having its own. As a result, Republicans will pick up 1 seat here. Democrats losing a seat, down to just 1 seat now in the Tennessee House delegation. Over in the Lone Star State, Republicans will pick up 2 congressional districts here, one in the Houston area, which is a new district, and then of course Texas 25, which in that race you have Monica De La Cruz, the Republican candidate. I think she's going to win. It's a Trump district, a Trump plus 2 or 3 district. She's going to win pretty overwhelmingly, especially given the trends in the Rio Grande Valley. I don't expect it to be that competitive. Over to the left, you have Henry Cuellar. I think he actually holds on. I've been saying that consistently throughout this cycle. Perhaps I'm wrong. It's a Biden plus 7 district, but Henry Cuellar is somebody who massively outperforms. He does have a brand in South Texas. I think he's going to hold on. His one weak spot, I think, is his corruption. He's a very corrupt representative, but he does have a lot of name recognition, a lot of money. He's a brand in the Rio Grande Valley. I think he holds on. Democrats don't lose any seats due to redistricting, but Republicans gain the 2 that they won over. Over in Utah, you have a safe Republican delegation, 4-0. Republicans gerrymandered the Salt Lake City area, so you don't really have a toss-up district anymore. Now you have 4 safe Republican districts. Over in Vermont, obviously Vermont, you're going to have solid blue. No shock there at all. Down in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Republicans will pick up 2 seats here. I think in the southeastern part of the state, in the Hampton Roads area, Jen Kiggans is going to win pretty comfortably against Elaine Luria, the Democratic incumbent. I think it's a 6 to 7 point margin at the end of the day. And I think Abigail Spanberger will narrowly lose to Yesli Vega in the 7th Congressional District. I think that's a 1 to 2 point race. Over in the state of Washington, you have Kim Schreier. This is really the only competitive district in the state. I think she loses. She barely performed up to par with Joe Biden in 2020. The district's character hasn't changed that much. Neither has its partisan lean. This central Washington district will flip to Republican control. That gives Republicans a net gain in the state of Washington. West Virginia, 2 safe Republican seats. No competitiveness here. Not much to talk about. In the state of Wisconsin, Republicans will easily flip Ron Kind's district. He's no longer running for re-election. It's a very Trumpian district. There's no incumbent here. The Republicans going to sweep pretty big in this district. I think especially because of the top of the ticket, Johnson winning there. Of course, Michael's winning as well. I think will really help down ballot. And finally, we get to the state of Wyoming, which is not at all competitive, with Republicans holding on to their 1 seat there. Of course, this time it won't be Liz Cheney, it'll be Harriet Hagman. With all those states taken into account, Republicans at the end of the midterms will have 246 House seats to Democrats 189. That's a pickup of 34 seats for the GOP. Pretty impressive, especially given the fact that the Republicans picked up a decent number of seats back in 2020, so they're raising that bar this time around. I think the national environment will certainly help them, which I project to be R+4. Of course, you have the popular vote on the screen here for the House races roughly. So anyway, guys, that is it for today's video. Please leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any more videos I put out. And as always, again, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next